Remember that feeling? That first time you picked up a wrench, aimed a B5 bouncer, and unleashed chaos across a vibrant, imaginative galaxy? For many of us, that feeling was Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 2. More than just a platformer, more than just a shooter, it was a revolution. A game that even today, almost 23 years later, holds a special place in our hearts and minds. But why? What made this original adventure so incredibly special? And in an era of endless reboots and remasters, why does the PS2 classic continue to resonate with players young and old? Get ready, because we're diving deep into the galactic origins of Insomniac's dynamic duo and exploring why Ratchet and Clank wasn't just a great game, it was a defining game. Let's set the scene. 2002. The PlayStation 2 was king, and character action games were evolving. We had our cartoon heroes like Jak and Daxter, our stealthy raccoons with Cy Cooper, but there was a hunger for something more. Something that blended the fast-paced action of a shooter with the intent platforming of a classic collectathon, all wrapped in a genuinely funny, engaging story. Enter Insomniac Games. Fresh off the success of Spyro the Dragon, they were ready to push the boundaries. Their vision for Ratchet and Clank was ambitious, a massive, interconnected galaxy, packed with bizarre creatures, ingenious gadgets, and an arsenal of weapons that would make even the most seasoned Space Marine blush. And crucially, it was all about momentum. The game never really slowed down. You were always moving, always collecting, always experimenting. Ratchet had his basic, 3D platforming mechanics and gameplay. He can obviously run, jump, double jump, climb, and even swim. He also had the ability to glide, with the help of Clank, of course. Ratchet's movement really felt fluid and, precise. But there was one thing that, I didn't like about the original game. Primarily because I didn't play the original game first. I played the second game first. And as you know, the second game always builds upon the first one. And in this case, Going Commando, the second game, had strafing and aiming, while the first one did not. And when I first played it, I was like a bit confused as to why I couldn't strafe. I was like, the hell, I can't strafe. And then I realized that the game mechanic didn't exist yet. And that, never existed to begin with in the first game. The swimming wasn't annoying like in most 3D platformers of the time. It was, I wouldn't say it was like groundbreaking, but it was less annoying than most games. In this game, you hold square to go down deeper, and you hold X, or cross technically, to go up. And that was pretty much it. When you're pushing down on L3 or the analog stick, Ratchet just goes forward. He doesn't go up or down. Which honestly makes it pretty good for the time, because, everyone hated water levels for the most part because they were terrible. Cameras sucked, controls sucked, everything sucked. Clank was also playable since the beginning of the franchise. His moveset was pretty limited. He didn't have a double jump, and he only basically attacked and, glided. Glided. And he did have a special ability, I guess you can call him an ability, where he can control the little mini bots. So when you were like in a specific part of the level, you can free up these bots and you can control them. You can make one build a bridge, you can make one lift a box, and you can make others go into a keyhole, I guess, to unlock a door or to attack enemies. There was also the swing shot mechanic, which is cool, but I found it a bit finicky at times. Like, I feel like you would hit circle to grapple, but Ratchet wouldn't grapple all the time. So sometimes I had to like double jump to make sure I'm in range of the grapple. And then there's also the grinding, the rail grinding. That's always cool. It's kind of gimmicky. I feel it's like a filler in a way, but it's pretty fun. It's like skateboarding, kind of. At its core, Ratchet and Clank was a buddy cop movie in space. Ratchet, the impulsive, hot-headed Lombax, and Clank, the logical, sarcastic robot. Their initial friction, their gradual bond, it was perfectly paced and genuinely endearing. You cared about their journey, not just because they were saving the galaxy, but because you wanted to see their friendship grow. Now, this is the part where I kind of like, after playing the game like for 20 plus years, and you compare Ratchet's attitude, his character from the OG 2002 game to literally any other game in the franchise, he was kind of a dickhead. Ratchet was an asshole. Like, I get it, he was supposed to be this like solo wolf, you know, Han Solo type of guy. He's always on his own, he doesn't need any friends, he doesn't need anybody. Everyone sucks, he's just here for the money or he's for the glory, whatever the case may be. But he was a fucking asshole in the original game. And I never, like, as a kid, obviously I didn't really pick up on that. But, you know, as you get older and you play them again and you compare his character to other games, yeah, his character kind of sucked. And his character arc, his character growth, in my opinion, wasn't that amazing, I guess. Like, he did, like, become friends with Clank and he did help him out eventually. But it was more of like, fuck it, fine type of thing. It wasn't really like out of the bottom of his heart. I don't know, maybe I'm being weird. But yeah, Ratchet he kind of sucked a little bit. I mean, he wasn't a bad character. Like, I didn't hate him, but he was kind of mean. Clank, on the other hand, I feel like he has not changed in like the 20 years this game has been out, this franchise has been out. He's been the most consistent. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just that I feel like his character is it's set in stone, if that makes any sense. He doesn't need any more growth. I mean, every character needs to grow, you know, to progress a story and to, you know, have engaging characters. I don't know, I think Clank is fine the way he is. But it wasn't just the heroes. The supporting cast was a masterclass in memorable and lovable characters. From the hilariously incompetent Captain Quark, whose ego was inflated as his biceps, to the nefarious Chairman Drek, a villain whose motivations were surprisingly relatable despite his monstrous ambitions. Every character, even the minor NPCs, felt distinct and added to the game's rich personality. The writing was sharp, the humor was witty, and the voice acting, top-notch, bringing these vibrant personalities to life. You see, this is where I think that the game really excels at. Ratchet and Clank know how to bring these eccentric and lovable characters, very distinct and unique characters, like I said before. And you can, like, even the NPCs, like these minor NPCs for like one cutscene or some shit, they're just so unique, and I don't know, like, Insomniac did a great job at developing this world and making it feel alive, and, you know, like it's actually the future in like this fantasy sci-fi world. Quark was one of those characters that I feel like he was meant to be annoying and hated, but you just can't really hate the guy. Yeah, he's a piece of shit, but he's not evil because he's a bad person. He's evil because he's just an idiot. You know, I think that's what makes it funny, or like, you know, like not like, oh wow, this guy is an asshole, let's kill him. Compared to Drek, okay, that guy's a piece of shit. That guy's actually a bad person. And now the main course of these games, the Arsenal. For many of us, the real star of the show was the Arsenal. Insomniac didn't just give you weapons, they gave you toys. The iconic B5 bouncer, a grenade that spawned mini bouncers of pure destruction, the plasma coil, melting enemies into goo, the powerful Devastator, turning foes into dust. And let's not forget the Shipinator, because sometimes you just want to turn a deadly alien into harmless sheep. Now, this is where I think this game, this franchise, really has lots of other franchises beat. Maybe Borderlands, but even then, I feel that the Ratchet and Clank guns are more creative and unique than they are in Borderlands. Or even like something like Destiny 2. Both Destiny and Borderlands are looter shooters, so the whole gimmick is to keep you engaged in the game and keep wanting to come back with the looting and the weapons, and the weapons are always the ones that people are going for because they're always unique and they have different perks and they have different abilities and stuff. And it's not like your traditional FPS or game where it's just pick up the gun, shoot. This gun better, it's stronger, shoot. They actually had personality and a you know a way to distinguish themselves from the others. But Ratchet and Clank does it 1,000 times better. I guess you can argue that the guns in Ratchet and Clank are more cartoony, unrealistic. But again, who cares? Because it's a game. It's not supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to be a fun, sci-fi galaxy game with these fucking quirky ass guns. And I don't know, I feel like I've always played the game wanting to evolve or level up the guns, because when you do, at least in the earlier games, not so much in the modern titles, they will like literally change. Like the Lancer will become the Heavy Lancer, and it'll be like an actual like assault rifle instead of like a pistol. I always like the gun changing and having different abilities or different stats or whatever. So really, the biggest strong suit that the game has is the weapons. Ever since the beginning, they've always have the best weapons in like any game I've ever played. Yes, sometimes they feel a bit repetitive, or like, how would you explain it? Basically like a different version or like an update of a gun, or just a different variation from game to game. Because at some point, your standard weapons like a sniper, a bomb, or your standard assault rifle, like there's only so much you can do with that standard weapon. So some weapons do get, I guess, quote unquote, recycled and used in the other games, but it's not really a negative when, again, there's only so much you can do with a standard weapon. But the creative weapons, like the boogie bomb, I can't remember a lot of from the top of my head. The boogie bomb, the one that turns them into sheep, the one where you summon Mr. Zertog, where it's like this fucking drone like following you, or like the death bots, or whatever the fuck they call it, when you like throw a bunch of little robots to kill people. There are just so many types of weapons that it's kind of insane. I can go on and on and on about the weapons themselves, but amazing weapons. But it wasn't just about the sheer variety, it was about the progression. Each weapon leveled up, gaining new abilities, increasing in power. This created an incredibly satisfying loop. Defeat enemies, collect bolts, buy new weapons, level them up, and then unleash even more glorious chaos. Coupled with an array of ingenious gadgets, the swing shot for traversal, the O2 mask for underwater exploration, the trespasser for challenging puzzles, the game constantly introduced new ways to interact with its world, keeping the gameplay fresh and exciting. Now, this is where I'm not entirely sure if this is like a hot take in the Ratchet and Clank community, but for me, the earlier games, I think most of the puzzles were kind of ass, especially in the first one. That stupid laser beam you have to, basically, the trespasser, there are these puzzles where you would take a laser beam and connect it to like a key, I guess, like another part of the puzzle. It was like a circular puzzle. And you would take a key, that light, and with your analog stick, you will rotate the laser. But the further you got into the game, the harder they got. And the difficulty aspect was that the lights were like intersect, they will be right next to each other, or you have like these barricades that would block the light from reaching its destination. The puzzles themselves weren't like Portal 2 puzzle level difficult. It's just that they were more tedious than, like, holy shit, I just solved the puzzle type of thing. They were annoying. In my honest opinion, they were so fucking annoying. I don't like the trespasser in the first game. There was another puzzle that I also did not like at all. I just can't remember which game it was. If it was the first one or the second one, where the puzzle was that when you like hack in, I guess, you have to move this laser in 3D sphere, and you have like a certain number of moves or a time limit. So again, it's not hard, it's just tedious, because like the further you go into the game, again, you get more annoying. And I don't know, I like puzzles. I love solving puzzles in games or in real life. But there comes to a point where a puzzle is either clever or it's just annoying. And for me, most of the puzzles in Ratchet and Clank were annoying. They weren't a challenge, they were just fucking annoying. Now, apart from the puzzles, there were some other gameplay mechanics that the game offered when you collect certain items. Like mentioned before, the O2 mask, where it basically you had unlimited air. because before you got the O2 mask, you had like a certain time before Ratchet started drowning, right? So that gives you unlimited air. You have your grind boots. If you don't have your grind boots, you can't grind on the rail. You have your, I think they're called your Magna boots or Magni boots, some shit like that. And these are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I guess they all are. These boots allowed you to traverse magnetic floors, so you can like go up a wall, on the ceiling, whatever. There are also some different gadgets and weapons that Ratchet collected that amplified his gameplay mechanics. There was this one where you can fill up a pool or like a tank with water or drain it. You had the one where it can freeze water or melt it, depending on what you needed it for. Most of these gadgets and weapons that you picked up throughout the game, I wouldn't say they were gimmicky. They were just used. You know what? It's kind of fair. They were used sparingly. They didn't like bombard you. Like, let's say once you get the one where it like freezes the water, or like it unfreezes the water. Like, there were levels where you had to use it, but it wasn't like always there. Like, you know, every once in a while. I think it's pretty smart that these unique items were used sparingly. Now, beyond the characters and the weapons, Ratchet and Clank built a universe. Each planet was meticulously crafted playground, distinct in its aesthetic, its enemies, and its challenges. From the towering skyscrapers of Metropolis to the desolate sandy wastes of Iridia, the game never failed to surprise with its environmental variety. The level design wasn't just pretty, it was smart, encouraging exploration, rewarding platforming prowess, and seamlessly integrating combat encounters. The gameplay structure, the level design, I think it was cool. It was good. It wasn't open world. It wasn't like, you can almost argue that it took inspiration from Mario 64, where the castle was the hub, right? And then you go into the page and you go into the puzzle in this level. The game, Ratchet and Clank, it didn't have a castle per se, but you did have the world map on in your ship, where you can select the planet and just go to it. It's like a really dumbed down version of the castle, right? And once you landed on a planet, you were pretty much free to do whatever the fuck you wanted. You could start with the side quests, with the optional quests, or you can go straight to the main quest and do that and just book it and leave and ignore the rest of the game. But that's not how you play Ratchet and Clank, because the planets themselves, like, they weren't that enormous. Like, you can do everything in one setting. You don't have to like split it, like, oh my god, I have to do this, I have to do that. No, it wasn't really an open world game. It was a game where like you had to collect quote unquote stars, like in Mario. You go in, get the stars. One star says beat this alien, another star says buy this weapon for like 20,000 bolts. So I feel like the levels were comfy. They didn't feel overwhelming. They didn't feel like empty. They had enemies everywhere. The sightseeing was amazing. Like, every planet was so different. Yeah, it was your standard. We had your lava world, your water world, your outer space world, your like suburban area. Like, some of them were pretty standard, but most of them were pretty unique. But they didn't feel empty. They didn't feel like a carbon copy of what you see in any other game. Like, they actually felt alive. They felt like even though you couldn't see other NPCs like in the distance or whatever, you felt like that was a real planet, and that's what made the game really fun to explore. Because I don't know, it just like you walk a few minutes and you see like a building or enemies doing this one thing, and you walk another like 5 minutes and it's like something completely different, you know. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm talking about it, I did say the guns were the game's biggest strength. I still think that's true, but I also think that the planets, the worlds that you explore, are also the game's strong suit. Because I mean, you can in any other game, if the world sucks, you're not gonna enjoy the game. So they really nailed the level design and the world design in this game, and every enemy was unique. Yeah, you had some repeats here and there with like some minor changes, like whether it's be a weapon or a color change or whatever. And no big deal. You get over it. Because all the planets had a different enemy. It was kind of rare to see a repeat or a recolor or reskin or re-weapon, whatever the case may be. So the enemies also played a big part as to why the world felt alive and unique, because even the enemies you killed were unique themselves. And speaking of the enemy design, the art style. Even the limitations of the PlayStation 2, Insomniac crafted a vibrant, expressive, visual language that has stood the test of time. The character designs are iconic and animations are fluid. The sheer imagination poured into every creature and vehicle is still impressive. It's a testament to good art direction that the game still looks charming even decades later. And that's something I still feel somewhat nostalgic for the original PS2 games compared to the modern ones, because I'm not saying that the art style changed dramatically from the original franchise to like the reboots or modern takes on Ratchet and Clank. It just got a bit sleeker, a bit more. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but when you see the original 3 and you see the PS3 version of Ratchet and Clank, the PS4 version of Clank, and now the PS5 version of Ratchet and Clank, it's not. The game is not unrecognizable. You can tell it's Ratchet and Clank, but I don't know. I feel like there's something about it. Maybe it's the graphics. Like maybe it's the PS2 era cartoon graphics compared to modern cartoon graphics. Maybe it's that, but there's just something about the original art style that is, I wouldn't say it's superior to the modern art style, but I don't know. I feel like they're different. They're similar, but it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to describe. Like I said before, you just have to see it to know what I'm trying to say. And this foundational game wasn't just a one-off success. It spawned a beloved franchise, influencing countless action platformers and setting a high bar for creativity and polish. It showed that character-driven games could be incredibly deep, challenging, and endlessly replayable, all while maintaining a sense of lighthearted fun. So is it just nostalgia? Are we looking back with rose-tinted glasses? I really don't think so. While nostalgia certainly plays a role, the original Ratchet & Clank genuinely holds up. The core gameplay loop is as satisfying as ever. The controls are precise and responsive, besides the, lack of aiming. The humor is still genuinely funny, and the sense of adventure of exploring a vast, unpredictable galaxy is still as potent as it was in 2002. The humor is something that the modern games, I wouldn't say lack, but they're not as adult. Because if you played the original games, they were more, I wouldn't say mature, but the jokes were a bit kind of not for kids, to be quite honest with you. I mean, even the fucking names of the games. Ratchet & Clank 2, Going Commando. Ratchet & Clank 3, Up Your Arsenal. Ratchet & Clank, Size Matters. Even the titles were fucking innuendos, Like, I did not notice that shit until I was way older. It just never hit me. Even when I got older and I matured I matured. I grew up and I started to understand more of the adult jokes, and I understood more of English. It just never hit me that the games were sexual innuendos or whatever the fuck you want to call them. So the humor, I wouldn't say it took a hit. I mean, it did. Okay, it did. It took a hit. It took a hit, but it wasn't it's not okay. I mean, to be fair, the games are made for kids, so they have to be a bit more lighthearted, whatever. But I don't know. I feel like they can go back to the bit more, I guess, more dirty, more adult humor from back in the day. But one can dream. Because look, they even took out the fucking titles, the funny sex titles, with the PS3, Ratchet & Clank Future, Tools of Destruction, Ratchet & Clank Future, A Crack in Time. Oh, I guess that kind of is a bit not sexual, but a crack in time, like a butt crack, you know, type of thing. Quest for Booty, the Rift one, I forgot the fucking name. Into the Rift, whatever the fuck it's called. Anyway, rant aside about sex jokes. It's a game that respects your time, constantly introducing new mechanics and challenges without ever feeling bloated. It's a masterpiece in pacing, difficulty curve, and rewarding player skill. It understood that variety was the spice of life, and it delivered it in spades. From its vast weapon arsenal to its diverse planets and memorable characters, it's a game that could teach modern developers a thing or two about creative freedom and pure, unadulterated fun. The original Ratchet & Clank isn't just a relic of the PS2 era. It's a testament to brilliant game design. It's a reminder of what happens when talented developers are given the freedom to create something truly unique. Something that pushes boundaries and leaves an indelible mark on the landscape of gaming. Also, it's one of, the most childhood games out there. The big three from the PS2. If you grew up with the PS2, you most likely grew up with Ratchet & Clank, or Sly, or Jak, or all three. Like I had the privilege of doing all these three franchises are what made my childhood. Yes, I had the GameCube, the 64, the Wii, but these three games I will forever hold dear to me. I love other games. I love other childhood games. Don't get me wrong. But these three franchises, I don't know. They're my number one games. Not three. Three in total, but number one games in my heart. Whether you're a veteran galactic explorer who played it back in the day, or a newcomer looking to experience a piece of gaming history, the original Ratchet & Clank is more than just a recommendation. It's an essential journey. It's a game that defined a generation, and for good reason. It's a classic that will continue to captivate and inspire for years to come. What are your favorite memories of the original Ratchet & Clank? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed. I think it's one of my longest videos, not gonna lie. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Share the video, comment down below, as I said before. Yeah, I see you in the next video. Bye.